100% right. The world has caught up. United States has not performed well in recent exhibitions and World Cups and things of that nature. Look at who's won MVP lately. Look at the deteriorating world of college basketball. I've talked about this on the show previously. The United States doesn't have a stranglehold over youth basketball, amateur basketball, the way that it once did, and it's manifesting in things like the Olympics, which I think there's a certainly non-zero chance that we do not win this
since
time
like '96. It's always been hard.
Right.
These teams, you guys have like caught up to us. You've caught up to us, and you're better than us in some ways.
Isn't that
That's
just
the truth?
Isn't that
not 1992?
120 international players.
We all know that international basketball has gotten better.
The narratives around the world were set. The world was catching up. The best player in the NBA wasn't American in multiple years. Foreigners have been winning the championships and the MVPs. Plus, the USA had just went to the FIBA games and didn't even medal with losses to Germany and Canada in 2023. More teams were being loaded up with NBA talent, and the game had been growing every 4 years at an exponential rate with the teaching of threes, spacing, chemistry, and more. It was time to put together a team that could hold off the world for at least another 4 years, not to send anything but our best, how we did in the 2023 games. This time, we would have to avenge last year and make a statement that Olympic gold was still reserved for the United States. But who could complete this task against the toughest field in Olympic history? To start off with assembling this Avengers level squad, we will be starting off with LeBron James. The King was once again ready to rep for the United States of America. He was one of the first commits to the team entering his 22nd season. LeBron committing signals to the rest of the NBA that this Olympics was going to be taken very seriously and possibly a last dance of some sorts. LeBron had just come off another stellar individual season and was in great shape, so this was the best start that they could ask for, getting an all-time great with a lot of juice left still in the tank. Next up, flanking LeBron James would be his arch rival for the first time in his career, Stephen Curry. This would be the first time that they ever played on the team together for multiple games. Possibly the best point guard to ever play and the best player to ever play were now donning one jersey. Past their primes? Sure. But still very effective and thirsty to make history together, as Bron shoots for his third gold medal and fourth overall, while Steph was shooting for his first gold medal as he had only won in the FIBA games. Now that you've locked down two all-time greats, and why not add another one? And that, of course, is Kevin Durant. He's a shoo-in. He's also one of the top 15 best players of all time, and he's been involved with Team USA for well over a decade now. He had just led them to gold in the last Olympics and the last Olympics and the last Olympics, so he wouldn't dare miss this opportunity to play with some of the best players in the world again. AD was all in, and the three greatest players of a generation formed a great foundation for what was on paper one of the best teams of all time already. Now we have real all-time greats, but who do we have to flank them down low? Well, in national play, you're gonna need some muscle, and a top 75 player of all time that can be strong, finish, shoot a bit, and play all-world defense isn't a bad start. So you can count Anthony Davis in. And maybe you needed a bigger body, maybe some more scoring and stretching the floor better. Enter in last year's MVP Joel Embiid, who had just averaged 35 a game and would probably be the back-to-back MVP of the NBA if he did not get hurt this last season. Now to round out the bigs, why not get someone that is maybe can bring everything to the table? He's mobile, he's strong, he's smart, young enough to be effective and set a blueprint for the next years. Let's go with Bam Adebayo. The front lines were filled with two surefire Hall of Famers and Bam, who was on his own great trajectory as well. They could all shoot, they could defend, they could finish. There's really no holes in the front lines of this team. Now, what about your guard play? Well, that was more than taken care of as well. Anthony Edwards was coming off maybe his second breakout season in a row, making the Western Conference Finals and disposing of the MVP and the best team in the league to a lot of people. For most NBA fans, he's up next, but if you ask him, he's got now. Ant-Man was in from the jump and was actually the best player from the disappointing FIBA loss in 2023, so he was looking for some much needed revenge and to be all under his favorite players of all time. After him, we got Devin Booker to commit, who had been a previous experience with USA as well, bringing home the gold in Tokyo in 2020. Book can score with the best of them, he plays defense when he gets into the Olympics, he can be efficient as well. He's a seamless pick and yet another all-star on the board to make this team even that more stacked. Next up, you had Tyrese Halliburton. I know everyone doesn't really like that Halliburton was picked, and spoiler, he doesn't really play much during this run. But he had a great season leading Indiana to the Eastern Conference Finals, and before his injury, he was averaging almost 25 points, 10 assists on almost 50, 40, 90. And even at this season, after his injury, he still ended with around 20 points and 10 assists, and he can maybe be a backup guy if two guys went down. Would I rather have maybe a Kyrie Irving or a Jaylen Brown? Maybe, but as we know, everyone can't play in these games, so Reese here doesn't hurt too much. At this time, Kawhi Leonard was also selected to the team, showing the world how much they're really going all in. Kawhi hadn't got an Olympic gold yet, so he was on that too in the same boat as Steph and Curry. It was very surprising to see him here, and I think you can say that was for a good reason in hindsight. Nevertheless, the claw for right now was in, and that meant that this team was just getting stronger by the day. Lastly, you know the champs had to get some guys in there, and Jrue Holiday and Jason Tatum were no-brainers. Both won in Tokyo in 2020 and were more experienced and maybe better from that point as well. Jrue was a defensive lockdown they needed on the perimeter, and he can shoot, finish, and he just has high IQ. While Jason Tatum could rebound, defend, and is a superstar in his own right. Both added chips to their resume this summer and were ready to put on again, straight from the NBA Finals to the Olympics. So there you have it. That's chapter 1, and that's the cast that the USA is rolling with. It was star-studded at the top, but it didn't really lack when you look deeper either. You've seen the big dogs at the top, like LeBron, Steph, and KD, but you've also seen the future in the distance with players like Anthony Edwards and Jason Tatum. They were hungry, and they obviously wanted to make one last statement to this generation that the world hadn't yet gotten the best of them with all the chips on the line. The task at hand was simple: bring home the gold and avenge the FIBA loss in 2023. In 2023, we sent some talented players, but it definitely wasn't our best punch, and we got hit in the mouth, and we didn't even get a medal. Embarrassing? Maybe, but as Americans, we always want to win and feel like we are the best, especially when all you hear is how many foreigners are winning the MVP, championships, and how narratives are being structured now around the modern day of basketball. Without a doubt, tides are changing a bit, but this team wasn't trying to hear any of that. However, they will be playing the toughest competition any team in the Olympics had ever played, as of course basketball talent had been growing every year. So the role wouldn't be easy, no matter how many stars or names that you had. FIBA is a different game. It's a different rules, and there's different roles for players. You have to earn it, and boy, to earn it this time would have so much on the line. This is Steph's first Olympics, and he would get an Olympic gold, putting him in rarefied air. KD would make history as the leading scorer in Olympic history and having 4 gold medals. Multiple young guys will win their first gold, and some guys will win their second gold. And this was definitely one last ride with LeBron and Curry. This team had a clear goal and vision in mind. When the team finally came together, many were at somewhat of an awe seeing this many stars together for the first time since around 2012. Past Olympic teams were always kind of missing a big star player to really have that aura around them. The 2016 team did feature Kevin Durant, but it didn't feature LeBron James or Stephen Curry. The same can be said about the 2020 team. So this team had a little bit of extra attention around it with so many star players. The clips and videos were a great treat for fans almost every day, seeing our best players work out and get ready to play together. Some notable moments include Anthony Edwards stating that all of these greats were in fact just going to need to adjust their. Some notable moments include Anthony Edwards stating that all of these greats were in fact going to need to adjust to playing with him, which is why we love who he is, whether he was trolling or not. Big news included Kawhi Leonard dropping from the team in preparation for the season and his safety, which is understandable but maybe kind of predictable out of Kawhi Leonard. It was disappointing for him to not suit up with these guys as he has been an all-time great as well, but with Kawhi Leonard out, they turned to maybe the best role player in the NBA and yet another Boston Celtics, which is Derek White, who could pretty much provide anything under the sun and wouldn't have much of an ego on the team. This would then cause controversy between fans and Team USA, as Jaylen Brown was looked at as a possible replacement. Many people thought that Jaylen Brown was the better player over Derek White, and that Grant Hill had something over him. Jaylen Brown is also a bigger player, and it would have been replacing Kawhi Leonard, who is a small forward, with basically a bigger player that can play the forward instead of a guard. Nevertheless, between the back and forth, Derek White was in, and Brown was on the sidelines watching Bronny during Summer League. It was what it was. During some select practices, superstar prospect Cooper Flag, who had just committed to Duke some months ago, drew a lot of attention as he was doing great versus the Hall of Fame level team. Book and some other guys even gave him some kudos, and it was pretty nice to have a very early look at one of the future pieces of USA basketball. LeBron James was voted by his peers and the media there to be the best player so far, which was kind of surprising given he was the oldest on the team, but really LeBron is an anomaly in his own right. Kevin Durant would sustain a calf injury, which is always scary when a player gets injured in a non-NBA season, but thankfully this was just a minor injury and he was looking to be ready by the Olympic Games. And finally, LeBron James was voted to be a flag bearer, not just for basketball, but for the entirety of the country, as he was voted on this by his peers, the first player in NBA history to do so. A much deserved and special accomplishment for LeBron in these Olympics, and the pictures and videos we got for this are golden. It was finally time for this team to get on the court and play some basketball. Now it was time for the United States of America to have the USA showcases where they would play other countries, but not for an elimination, really to just build chemistry and build camaraderie with each other. First up on the board was Canada, a team the United States knew well since they had a load of NBA talent. The first game would be a big challenge given that they were rusty or unfamiliar with each other, and they could lose with all of this hype and Kevin Durant wasn't playing. Canada started off strong with SGA, Dillon Brooks, Jamal Murray, and tons of NBA talent keeping the pace. But eventually, the United States pulled away just enough with contributions from just about everyone. The game wasn't a blowout and was more or less of a scrimmage, but Team USA won. And as a team like this, losing isn't an option, whether it be a scrimmage or a real game. The test was passed. Throughout the next course of games, the United States team would play a couple of entertaining games and some not so much as they were getting their footing under them. Coach Kerr was constantly fine-tuning the lineups to get the best results, as well in the exhibition games he changed starters almost every game to see what worked. He was even doing full-on subbing 5 for 5 and wasn't staggering players a lot in the beginning. Some fans, well actually a lot of fans think they could have done better coaching this team and creating rotations, but for now we'll just leave that up to the professionals. After Canada came a gritty Aussie team that featured some good NBA talent as well. And you know role players always gain +5s to their attributes in the Olympics playing for their home country. The United States stuck away with this one 98-92, and you could see that the world was definitely not going to be pushed over like years past. Teams are better, they're smarter, they can shoot better, and they've played with each other for years, and they are better at the rules than us and more familiar. If we were going to win, we'd better earn it. AD led us this game with 17 points and 14 rebounds, while Devin Booker and Ant scored around 15 apiece. KD was still yet to suit up, and LeBron was playing solid, and Steph hadn't found a rhythm yet either. Next up was a beating on Serbia, which wasn't close as Steph led us with 24 points. The Joker had gotten his first taste of USA, and while of course he played well, the team was just not fit yet to compete with the USA team, and would need more tries and effort to do so. You could tell that they were talented, but in this game, they got blitzed by the US. Next up on the list was South Sudan, and this is where we almost imploded. Let me make it clear. This United States team isn't supposed to lose to a South Sudan team. They had good talent, guys who could make shots and that played very hard, but we had that and then some, and they didn't even have as much NBA talent as some of the other teams. This game was close and all the way through, and it came down to us being down by 1 inside of 30 seconds. Lose and we get ridiculed, scrutinized, and while we aren't eliminated, it raises questions and drops their stock among the pantheon of USA teams. Enter in LeBron James. For context, a media page had actually just recently asked some guys around who you want taking the last shot, and let's just say LeBron wasn't the first option. Well, he proved maybe why he should be, as he had the game-winning layup to close out South Sudan. This one was close, and maybe too close for comfort. This was when LeBron really started to pick it up, as he had 25 points, 6 rebounds and 7 assists, and the game winner. You can see he was the leader of this team, and while he was playing good in the previous games, he was entering his Olympic glow now. This game also built character that would be tested in a couple weeks, but for now, we escaped with the victory and still undefeated. Then came the Germany game in the United States Basketball Showcase. Germany was fresh off a gold medal in the FIBA of 2023, beating the USA team that featured good players like the Wagner Bros, Dennis Schroeder, and a bevy of talented players. This was a back and forth game all game even until the fourth quarter, but LeBron James yet again took over this game late in the fourth. He led the team with 20 points and was a man amongst boys imposing his will. The United States closed out the game 88-92, yet another close game, but yet another W. Wins like this built the core for the team to be able to weather storms. Some people thought this would be a walk in the park, but it was clear it wasn't going to be with how the world had come up. Yet still, it held an undefeated record for the USA team. Now that the exhibitions were done, it was off to Paris for the friendly games that will weigh in the group phase. While they were always playing to win, it was now time to maybe put those scares away and play a little bit more serious now. In the first group phase game, Durant returned versus Serbia for 21 easy points. I'll leave you guys with some of the key narratives that we've built up until this point. Steph Curry had been struggling since his 24-point game, and his first game before that wasn't too hot either. He was in a shooting slump, and while he was solid, he was leaving a lot to be desired. Embiid was the most hated guy on the planet. People don't like that he was even on Team USA to begin with, and he wasn't playing well either. Many called for Anthony Davis to start in his spot, which I wasn't opposed to. As far as some of the other guys on this team like Anthony Edwards, Derek White, Jrue Holiday, Book, Bam, and Anthony Davis, all were pretty much playing well every night, with if one of them was slacking off, the other would pick it up. Book was a fixture in the starting lineup and playing solid all tournament. Edwards could go off in games and proved it multiple times. The Celtics guards did all the dirty things, and Bam and AD locked up with the second unit and provided scoring when needed. As far as the starting lineup goes, Steph and LeBron really never left the starting lineup. Book was a fixture in the starting lineup for most of the games. Jrue Holiday got some starts. Derek White never started, and Tatum got a couple of starts as well. At the top was LeBron James, who was by far the best player on the team up until this point. He could lead in scoring one game, he could be the best rebounder, he could get 10 assists, and he was the leader of the team. KD had just came back, and he was already at the top with Bron in one game, proving that he was different in the Olympics. Tatum got a straight-up DNP coach's decision versus Serbia in the first game, which did set the media ablaze. He didn't shoot well at all, but he been solid, and he was first-team All-NBA, a champion, a superstar, and had helped USA previously win gold 4 years ago. You'll hear more about this later, but Tatum definitely should have had time here. Hallie was also phased out of the rotation, but the outrage wasn't nearly as loud, and I think Hallie actually wouldn't have preferred it any other way. Now that you're all caught up, let's continue on this journey. Next on the list was the rout of Puerto Rico. Final score 83-104. AE went crazy for 26 off the bench, 15 from Embiid, and a double-double from Jason Tatum. 10 points from LeBron, 11 from KD. Undefeated still. Everyone played that was available, and highlights were starting to pile up. The United States was now entering a sweet spot, and the timing couldn't be any better as they were now going into the elimination games. It's do or die now. It's win or go home. Everyone has to lock in, and everything that they've talked about is now on the line. Long story short, in this game versus Brazil, no one knew what we were about to get was one of the best games of all time. Here you have it, the Serbia game. Let's get something straight here. It's hard to beat any team 3 times in a row, especially a team with what is thought to be the best player in the world with an assortment of shooters around him. Add in an elimination aspect and it gets even harder. Serbia jumped up to a double-digit lead as they couldn't miss from 3, shooting over 50% and matching everything the United States was throwing at them. And what the United States was mostly throwing at them was Stephen Curry. He had 17 plus just in the first quarter as he was putting on his own excellence of shooting. He had struggled pretty much all of the Olympics, but he was delivering when it counted. Still, the Serbians led by Jokic and Bogdan Bogdanovic were up double digits going into halftime. They were shooting the lights out, hitting back-breaking shots, and the US, dare I say, just didn't have it. AE looked scared and he didn't look ready for the moment. Tatum didn't play again on a coach's decision. Hallie didn't even think about taking off his warm-ups. AD wasn't as good, and Bron and KD were okay, but they weren't going crazy. They needed to do work in the second half, and do work quick. Fast forward some time, and the US is still down double digits going into the fourth quarter. The reality of losing actually started to settle in for the fans at home and in the arena, and maybe even the players. Serbia and Jokic were just 1 quarter away from pulling off one of the biggest upsets in USA basketball history. But remember when I said that this team built character? Those games versus Australia, South Sudan, and Germany weren't a bad thing to happen. It prepared them for this moment. And man, was this moment crazy. Stephen Curry went off. LeBron James went off. Kevin Durant did his thing, and Joel Embiid had finally joined the party. After getting Jokic in some fouls trouble, the US reeled off buckets and stops like we had never seen before in this game. Steph hit threes, Book hit threes, Bron went coast to coast and was guarding Jokic at 40 years old in the post and giving it his all. KD was hitting big shots and locking up. Embiid was scoring 8 points straight with dunks and ones in his mid-range game. It all came down to the United States truly playing the best game that me personally I've ever watched. We watched Hall of Famers, MVPs share the court at once, all duking it out with passion, and on the line was a gold medal. The United States winning in this fashion was something that I and the fans will truly always remember. We knew going into this that we'd only get LeBron, Steph, and Kevin on the team once, and in this game they all showed their superpowers. The United States would erase a 13-plus point lead in the fourth quarter to go on to the gold medal game, and the basketball world was set ablaze. The crazy thing is that everyone knew it in the moment that this game was a classic. As time goes by, it'll be known as one of the best games of all time due to the passion, the stakes, and the stars that shaped the game from the past decade plus. Small note, people had just about had it with Tatum not playing, especially in a loss. Even Tatum's mom chimed in, but the team and the fans were blessed so much by this game. I don't want to spend too much time here on Jason Tatum not playing, but it was something to note. Now, we reached the end of our road. Although they had just played one of the best games of all time, the job wasn't finished. They won that game on 8-8-24, and this game was on 8-10-24. Coincidence? Likely. But they were going to be sure to finish the job, as their idol and their brother was possibly on the minds of them and the fans. On the other side was the home team in Paris, and that was the French. They disposed of Canada and Germany before this, so they were rolling and weren't to be taken lightly at all. They featured an all-time prospect and a defensive stalwart, and the Rookie of the Year in Victor Wembanyama, FIBA star in Evan Fournier, and an assortment of actual high-end talent, with some in the NBA or some with NBA experience. USA versus France in Paris for the gold. It was here, and it was finally time to avenge the 2023 FIBA loss for the gold. The game started off electric with dunks, blocks, trash talking, and many highlights. But once things settled in, the United States really took control of this game for the majority, with performances from Book, LeBron, Davis, and KD. However, France was not going quietly. Again, the United States found themselves up, but giving the lead some ground with some sloppy play, and France was feeding off the crowd. The French drew within 3 in the fourth quarter. It was happening again. Everything was on the line, and we needed someone to step up. These games aren't a given, and like I said in the beginning, if we were going to win, we would have to earn it. Enter in game breaker Stephen Curry, who hit multiple threes in the stretch to literally bring us the gold home. He had 24 points in his game, and each 3 in the fourth got crazier and crazier by the make. He hit absolutely huge shots to give us breathing room, and then he hit the dagger as well. LeBron James chipped in with 14 points and 10 assists. KD had his 15, as well as Book having 15 as well. And behind Steph Curry's late game heroics in both of these last 2 games and LeBron James' solid play all tournament, the United States had realized the dream and done it again for the 5th straight Olympics and won gold. The task was finished, the mission was accomplished, and the United States was avenged. All of the goals that they set out upon were accomplished. LeBron was named Olympic MVP, KD made his mark as the best Olympic basketball player of all time, and Steph had a crazy first and most likely last Olympics. The young guys chipped in where they could, and now the blueprint was set for guys like Ant, Tatum, Bam, and Book, or more to take on the world as they continuously get better. It will be a challenge, as the US likely won't have the best player in the whole world on their squad, but they still have tons of top-end NBA talent and the culture that has been doing things right for over 20 years now. The story of the 2024 Olympic men's basketball team is beautiful. It wasn't a blowout every game like the Dream Team, but it was honestly the most fun watch of all time to me, mainly because of the competition. You've seen stars rise to the occasion time and time again, and when our backs were against the wall, we answered the call. Is it the best Olympic team of all time? I'll leave you to discuss that, but they definitely do have a discussion for that. The job was assigned and the job was finished. Hats off to the Avengers Olympic team, and what a treat it was for us all to watch them.